Hello and welcome to another typeaircraft.com video tutorial. Today we're going to show you the SEO settings in the Joomla global configuration. First thing we need to do is navigate to the global configuration, and you can do that via the desktop dash bar or dash icons across the top. There's a big icon saying global configuration, or if you go to site in the top left corner and navigate down to global configuration, it's also there for you. Okay, and the SEO settings are on the first tab, which is the site tab, and you'll find the SEO settings in the top right where I've just highlighted there. Okay, so there are 6 options, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 options in the SEO, and we're going to take a look at each one of those very quickly. And here's the site I am working on. It's my own site here, and it's a demo, and this is my staging site that I'm using here. And what you see is when I click on a link, say the website link there, so for the portfolio, if you look at the top, I have a domain, and it will be your domain, and then you have something like index PHP question mark, and then Joomla creates a very long and somewhat odd looking address, and in this case it's I think it says component equals, and it has various parameters. And now what these parameters are doing is telling Joomla how to load the page. So it's telling them what page you should be loading, and any of the additional options like modules, assignment, and etc. And it all does this through the database. Now that's great for Joomla, but unfortunately for us that looks kind of ugly, and Google and other spiders that go around searching for the web, they can't understand it either. So Joomla is a much better built-in SEO now than it did before, and we're going to turn that SEO on, and we're going to see exactly what it's going to do. So I'm just going to turn it on and refresh the page, or actually visit the home page first of all. If we just refresh it, it'll just load the same page. But now we're going to go back to the page with the links on the site now updated, and what you'll find is when we click on that link, it has a somewhat more understandable address, and in this case it creates the date and adds in the category name and then the article name. We still have the index PHP in the URL, which is kind of redundant. We don't really need that, but as the site is configured currently, Joomla needs that to actually run, and we're going to look at ways of removing that in the options. Okay, so I'm just highlighting a few of the parts of the URL that have been generated by the SEO now. So that should help somewhat the SEO for the site, but we can go take a little bit step further. URL rewriting is one of those things. Okay, what that does is it removes that index.php, but you need Apache mod rewrite, which is an Apache module. If you don't know what that is, don't worry too much. Just what you can do is press yes and hit save, and then refresh your home page. And if nothing happens or it breaks completely, then you know that you don't have Apache mod rewrite. If you're your own site manager and you have access to the shell, then you could look at installing that, and that is a whole tutorial in itself. But what you do need to check just before you activate the URL rewriting is if you're using a Linux server, which is what I'm talking about currently, that you need to go into your FTP, go to the root of the site, find the htaccess file, which in a default installation is called htaccess.txt, which is a text file, but htaccess files are actually a .htaccess with no file name, and that's what Apache uses to read to understand how it should deal with rewriting of URLs. So what effectively we're doing is we're taking the original URL, the index PHP, and all the parameters, and we're rewriting that into something meaningful now for us. So now I've done that, I'm just going to visit the same page once again, and we have the SEO just as we did in the last example, but without the index.php bit in there, which is one less piece of information that we don't need to include in our URL, which should hopefully slightly improve the SEO further still. So again, analysing the URL there, and just a few more options here. So the add suffix to the URL basically means, do you want to add like .html to the end of the URL, which basically it really makes no odds, I guess. I tend to just leave it as no. I like nice clean endings where the document isn't declared, and it's not important. Google don't seem to care. They just assume it's a HTML file as the output, which it is. So if we were to turn that on and refresh the page, what you'll find is that the URL again remains the same without the index.php, but at the end would say, in this case, the Smile Lounge.html. Okay, so there's a couple of other options, including Unicode aliases, which basically just converts funny characters into normal HTML characters. And I'm just quickly jumping into the source code here just to show you some of the other SEO stuff that happens on the site. So Joomla by default creates the Joomla site generator tag, which basically tells anybody visiting the site that the site was built in Joomla, which is fine. It's a nice little self-promotion, I think, for Joomla, but could pose a security risk, and in fact some of the SEO extensions go some way to removing that tag. You can also do it yourself via the templates if you're a dab hand at PHP and HTML. The include site name in the page title changes the metadata for the title, and basically includes the website name, which is defined in the global configuration in the top left of this page, and includes that on your title, which is often not actually seen too much these days, but in Firefox you can see it. On my example here, you can see Type Aircraft Administration. That is the title on the on my Smile Lounge portfolio page. It just says the Smile Lounge. If I was to turn on the include site name in page title, what you'd find is that the Smile Lounge tab would then become the Smile Lounge with Type Aircraft appended to it. Okay, I'm basically adding some site metadata, and this, as we're in the global configuration, this is site metadata that applies to every page. So it's quite general, or tends to be quite general, and it's not hugely important in this day and age, as most SEO, as most website crawlers like Google and Bing, they don't particularly have any weighting towards these. I think Google even have no bearing at all on your keywords. So again, not as important as it used to be. More important is the content. And I'm just going into the source just to show you the change that I've made in the global configuration has now propagated itself to the source file. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the comments section, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Hope you've sort of learned a little bit about SEO in general, and also how to apply some SEO techniques to the Joomla website. Thanks a lot. Cheers for watching.